could only feel waves of violent tremors rippling from all directions. A particular stench that was hard to describe permeated the air. Those yellow talismans all exploded. And as for the ghosts and demons who had them stuck to their foreheads, the solid ones had all their brains blown out, blood and flesh splattering, and the hollow ones were blown out of shape, black smoke dispersing. Before the mountain bluffs, there was a field of howling and wailing. Xiang released the hands covering Shelian's ears, looking unaffected. Shelian rose to his feet, feeling slightly alarmed. He had inspected those yellow talismans one by one earlier, and they were all the most normal of exorcism charms. So how could they have such a shocking effect? Just then, amidst the smoking skies, came fluttering down a shredded paper. With a swift hand, Shelian seized it to take a look, and instantly figured it out. How cunning, he said. This was the shredded corner of one of the yellow talismans. If it wasn't shredded, it might not have been noticeable, but there were actually 2 layers. One sheet of paper covered the top, and it was drawn with a more normal spell, but beneath there was another extremely thin sheet of charm paper. Although it had already been burnt to the point where the spell was no longer recognizable, needless to say, it must have been a most vicious and aggressive spell. Clouds of dust flew and filled the air. Things couldn't be seen clearly, and there were still many ghosts who were screaming like someone was taking this chance to ambush. Shelian instantly laid low, and a ghost was shouting, "Wait, the slaughtering hasn't started. Why are you all making your moves now?" "Yeah, didn't we all agree that since we're all ghosts, we'll peacefully find a way to cross the mountain to enter first?" A savage voice laughed and said, "Idiots like you deserve to be annihilated in the first round. There's never been any indication of when the slaughter begins, and since we're all opponents anyway, obviously, the faster you're done in, the better. Think I'm gonna say hi before I make my move?" Wait, I'm backing out. We're not at Mount Tong'lu yet. Can't I back out now?" The clouds of smoke and dust cleared slightly, and once the ghosts could see clearly, they were all mortified. "Huh? How did this happen?" they shouted. Not just them, even Shelian was slightly stunned by the sight before him. When they first came, ahead on the road, there was a tall mountain bluff that couldn't be bypassed nor crossed, blocking the way. Yet looking at it now, somehow that mountain had disappeared. No, it didn't disappear. It had migrated behind them. It seemed, without them realizing it, they had already entered the boundaries of Mount Tong'lu. Shelian suddenly understood why, when he first asked if Mount Tong'lu had any landmarks, Xiang said that there were, but not to trust them. Because those landmarks were like mischievous children playing pranks and would move around on their own. Suddenly, Shelian heard a voice behind him sneer, "I just gotta see what this puppet is made of, or perhaps you're something else." It was swift, life-extinguishing blade. Shelian whipped around, yet before Ruya flew out, there was a chilling flash of light. That swift, life-extinguishing blade hadn't even had the chance to scream before it was slashed in two from the waist. Shelian rushed up to check, and sure enough, he was legitimately chopped cleanly into 2 halves and couldn't be more dead. He raised his head and saw the one who had struck was that eccentric, cloaked figure. He was slowly sliding his sword into his sheath as he walked over in steady, confident steps. Shelian felt both the figure and the way he walked was somewhat familiar and straightened up. "My good sir, you are?" he asked. That man smirked and was about to answer when he suddenly bent down. Seeing this unexpected action, alarms went off in Shilian's head, and he watched him intently, preparing for any surprise attacks. Yet, that man only leaned down and circled his 2 arms around the slender waists of 2 female ghosts. "Are my ladies all right?" he asked. Those 2 female ghosts both bore charming looks and figures, and because they didn't wield swords, they didn't use those yellow talismans, and were able to escape the disaster. Nevertheless, the shockwave from the blasts knocked them out. Now that they were being embraced in someone's arms and being beckoned so passionately, they languidly came to, feeling grateful. "I'm all right, thank." Yet abruptly, before that thank you fully left their lips, the faces of those 2 female ghosts changed. They shoved that eccentric cloaked figure away. "Get out of here," they shouted. Then they hurriedly crawled away. That man wasn't annoyed, even after being slapped twice, and only appeared rather confused, rubbing his chin as he knitted his brows. "That's not right. This face isn't that ugly," he said to himself. Although he was still in disguise, Shilian already knew who he was. "General Pei, why are you here too?" he asked. The man turned to him and smiled. His hand brushed by his face and revealed his true appearance. It was Pei Ming. "Naturally, it's because the Emperor asked me to give your Highness a hand," he replied. "Really?" Shilian said. Thank you. Sorry for the trouble. It's very dangerous here, as you can see." "Gogo, there's no need to be so grateful. He's obviously negotiated full benefits with Junwu," Hua Cheng said. Pei Ming walked over and stopped in front of Hua Cheng. Then he crouched down and made a hand gesture to measure his current height, laughing. "Do my eyes deceive me?" he said. "Is this my Lord Crimson Rain, Sword Flower? One certainly changes for the better with time. So what did you eat to grow backward?" He started to laugh. He had only let out one laugh before Shilian's silk bandage was released, whipping so hard he was almost sent flying. He only barely dodged, leaping backward. "Your Highness, just how much do you treasure Hua Chengju? Can't even take a joke?" he asked. Shilian demanded somberly, "Are you really General Pei?" Pei Ming patted the sacred sword hung on his waist, flashing it for him to see. "Genuine and authentic. Exchange if fake." "No exchange. If fake, return directly," Shilian said. "Gogo, kill it. It's fake," Hua Cheng said. "Hey," Pei Ming protested. "If you're really General Pei, then why did that yellow talisman leave an ashen mark on your forehead earlier?" Shilian questioned. "It's simple," Pei Ming said. "It's all thanks to this." Then he tossed a small item to Shilian. Since he was on guard, Shilian didn't catch with his hands. Instead, he used the tip of his sword and skewered it, bringing it up to his eyes. Candy. On the tip of the sword was a shiny little black candy. Pei Ming threw another in his mouth. "Ghost scent candy I bought from the ghost city. Just chew one and you'll get a mouthful of essence of evil flowing from inside out. Rather useful when pretending to be an inhuman creature." Shilian twiddled that ghost scent candy and was amazed. "You can buy such magical things in Ghost City?" he asked. Pei Ming munched on the candy and said, "Ask your Hua Chengju right next to you. He knows best. You can buy anything in Ghost City if you know how. The flavor's not bad. Your Highness, want to try one?" Shilian was also curious about how ghosts would taste and turned to Hua Cheng, saying, "If that's the case, we should have gotten some of those ghost scent candies before we came." However, Cheng took the candy from his hand and said, "Go, if you want anything in Ghost City, you only need to ask me. But don't eat stuff like this." "Why?" Shilin asked. Cheng didn't exert any power, but that candy shrieked and dissolved into a wisp of black smoke. He explained, "Everything in the Ghost City is dangerous. Like this candy, it comes from a shady production house, and the ingredients are mostly vulgar, puny ghosts with unknown origins. Eating it will damage the body." Pei Ming didn't think anything of it. "It's all right," he said. "It's only for emergencies, not like it's eaten regularly." Cheng continued, "And the smell is pungent. Heavenly officials and mortals can't smell it, but the more vulgar the ghost, the more rancid the smell." Pei Ming was speechless. Cheng snickered. "Do you understand now why those two female ghosts told you to get lost? It was because the essence of evil they smelled on Pei Ming was extremely vulgar and disgusting." Shilin cleared his throat softly and said courteously, "General Pei, let's not eat this anymore." Pei Ming made a gesture and pulled out the leftover ghost scent candies, tossing them all out. "Fine," he said, "but we've only just reached the outer edges of Mount Tong'lu. After going further in, there'll be even more powerful monsters and demons that can tell with just a look that we're suspicious. What shall we do then?" Those female ghosts swarmed around Cheng like ducks. No doubt, they really liked his scent. The essence of evil Cheng transferred to him was undoubtedly the highest of quality, so there certainly wasn't a real need to buy ghost scent candies. Only, if he didn't want anyone to discover that the essence was only stained on the surface, then they might need to press their lips together like last time and exchange bodily fluids and air. Shilin immediately stopped himself from thinking on this. He said matter-of-factly, "I don't know either, I'm just a puppet." Meaning he was going to continue acting. "Fine, Your Highness best keep close to your master now," Pei Ming said. Shilin pretended not to hear and scanned their surroundings, humming. "I hadn't imagined casualties would be this devastating from the get-go." The 400 or so ghosts that had gathered here originally were mostly dead or injured. Shilin couldn't help but recall that scene Cheng enacted for him that night, and it truly wasn't an exaggeration. It really was as if a gust of wind had blown past and all the weeds had been ripped out. The ones who had managed to escape this trial and hadn't died out completely were scraggly and few, their limbs all over the place, moaning and groaning. Cheng stood in front of them and asked, "Do you all now understand what kind of place Mount Tong'lu is?" The surviving ghosts didn't dare make a sound. Shilin said gently, "You're all still only on the outer edges right now. There's still a chance to pull out. If you don't want to continue and run into scarier things, then wait around here and find a chance to leave." The ghosts had that very intention, and seeing Shilin and company didn't plan on wiping them out, they hurriedly pulled each other up, supporting one another, and fled as far as they could. Watching their retreating backs, Shilin spoke meaningfully. That swift, life-extinguishing blade might have had an exaggerated name, but he was unexpectedly impressive, vicious. Pei Ming agreed. That creature was extremely good at manipulation and was stirring the pot from the start. He was also quick on his feet. "Your Highness, that strike of yours gave him the perfect chance to use his injuries for trickery." Shilin blinked. "Wait, my strike? What strike?" "I didn't unsheath my sword." "No?" Pei Ming wondered. "That small slash on his abdomen. If it wasn't for him creating panic, and that little gash stained with your spiritual light, no ghosts would have believed him and stuck those talismans on their foreheads. Shilin was puzzled. To be honest, I thought that strike had come from you, General Bei. Your Highness, do you have some sort of misunderstanding of me? I don't do ambushes or sneak attacks, Pei Ming said. If it wasn't you, and it wasn't me, then was there a third heavenly official present? Or perhaps the spiritual light on that swift-blade demon's wound is problematic. He turned around and was about to inspect and verify, but where that swift, life-extinguishing blade's corpse once lay was empty. Startled, he demanded, "Where's the corpse of that swift blade demon?" Pei Ming was also somewhat taken aback. "I clearly slashed him at the waist just now," he said. Ho Chang said darkly, "Gege, be careful. In Mount Tong'lu, the more opponents killed, the stronger the slayer." And earlier, within an instant, that swift, life-extinguishing blade had slaughtered close to 400 monsters and demons.